Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is an IFBB Pro. Today's guest is Sylvester Cain. Sylvester, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure, man. So, first question I got for you is, who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders of all time?
I always pick those that go by my structure, so I'm more of the short person one. Franco Colombo, Lee Priest, Shane Ray, Clarita's a new one, Kevin English, and Flex Lewis.
All right, cool. That's quite the list. I love it. Let us know, Sylvester, at what age did you start lifting weights, and then why did you start lifting weights at that specific age?
For me, I started working out probably around 14-ish.
Okay.
When I was actually allowed to work out. I think at that age, we wouldn't started to do it in school until about freshman year of high school. So yeah, about 14.
Okay. Was that kind of for sports, or was it like a PE class, or what was it for specifically?
Football.
Okay, cool. Awesome. All right. So why don't you talk a little bit about where you grew up, Sylvester? Talk about your childhood, if you don't mind. You said you played football. What other sports did you play? Talk right up to about high school, and I've got some questions to transition us on from there.
All right. So I was originally born in Amarillo, Texas. My entire family is pretty much from Mississippi. This is a time where racism was kind of rampant. And being that I am biracial, it wasn't welcomed per se where we're from. So for the well-being of myself, my parents being truck drivers at the time, ended up having me on the road a lot. My mama just went into labor in Texas. From there, we kind of bounced around a whole bunch between Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, Colorado. Never really a homebody pretty much with them moving so much. I went to high school almost everywhere. I went to a different school every year. So not a lot there for me. It's really hard to make friends. Just childhood wasn't really childhood, if that's you want to look at it that way. You always had to grow up because my mom had another child, which was my little brother at the time, and I had to raise him because she worked 2 jobs and my dad wasn't around.
Okay.
My first passion was always football. I had 2 dreams growing up: to be an NFL football player or to be a superhero. Well, needless to say, I don't think Marvel was accepting me at the time. NFL, I did the best I could, but size is a factor. I had my shots in Canada and with the Colorado Crush, but injuries after so long took a toll. Just had to walk away.
So we'll start with football. What position did you play mostly?
Running back.
Okay, cool. Who were some of your idols as football players growing up? What was your favorite team growing up?
Growing up, really didn't have a favorite team. I looked up to basically, like I said, not having a male figure around as far as that father idol. I idolized Barry Sanders.
Cool.
Again, that short stature, something that I could relate to. That was always my one.
Cool, man. Awesome. I just actually saw on Instagram on ESPN that they're putting a statue out in front of the stadium there in Detroit of Barry Sanders, which is kind of cool. So, all right, I want to ask you a little bit. You said your dad wasn't around and stuff. Talk a little bit about that. Did that put a little bit of a chip on your shoulder? How did that affect you as a young person? And then did that affect you as you got older into manhood yourself?
I mean, so my dad was, he's dead now, but my dad was an alcoholic, and he was one of those that was unbearable to be around. My mama left him when I was 3 years old, just out of safety of me personally. It was one of the things. She would take what he dished out, but when it got directed at me, that was it for her. She moved from Mississippi to Texas, then up to Colorado, where my aunt was. She had met a man when I was about probably 5, and that's my brother's dad. He wasn't no better. So with those two kind of around being who they were, for me, I just felt like I had to look out for me. Like I said, my mom worked 2 jobs, and those 2 weren't helping out. So they taught me how to not be a man. I didn't have that idol that should have been in the house when you say come to parenting or fathers or hell, even manhood. Um, if anything I did learn from them, it's like I said, it's how not to be. I have 3 kids, and I will never turn my back on them. I'll always be there, and that image of a man won't be instilled in them that I had.
Right. Did that did you have a chip on your shoulder when you were younger because of the lack of a male role model or influence in your life, or not necessarily?
I mean, not necessarily. Mine was just, it's funny when you look back at it. I was 3'9" as a freshman in high school.
Wow.
So I didn't really hit a growth spurt, which I still ain't very tall now. But I always got picked on, and it just, for me, it presented anger issues. And that's where that chip come from, is that I'm only going to take so much of what you dish out, and I'm going to start fighting back. So no parents around, had to deal with getting bullied until I started fighting back. It just, anger got me through a lot. And I figured, to hell with it, I'm going to outwork everybody. I may not ever be the biggest guy, but I can promise you, you won't outwork me. I won't go horizontal, but I won't go vertical, but I'll go horizontal.
Okay. Do you still carry that anger with you to this point, or have you kind of worked through some of that stuff?
No, the anger's good now. Been through a lot. I mean, you learn as you get older, especially with kids, patience, different ways to approach stuff. But no, now it's just work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything I want to pave a way for my kids to see, regardless of what people tell you, you can and can't do, that choice is yours. Just keep working.
Love that, man. Okay, so outside of football, did you play any other sports growing up, or was it mostly just football?
I played basketball. I ran track. Track was always my second love when it came to sports that way. I tried wrestling for a while, but those anger issues. Nah.
Got the best of you with wrestling, huh?
Yeah, I went a whole season, but I only won 1 match. I got disqualified for the rest of them.
Okay. Why was that?
I mean, they got something called a crippler crossface. You hit me in my face, I'm gonna hit back, not knowing that that's illegal.
Okay.
We grew up with, what was it, WWF at the time?
Yeah.
W now. That's wrestling.
Okay.
Wrestling in school, that's something different. You can't do that. So
right. You should have found yourself a boxing gym, man. You probably would have been pretty good at boxing, don't you think?
I mean, maybe, but we grew up poor. So, and boxing, like bodybuilding, is not a cheap sport.
Right. And it's, it's kind of a thing of the past. It's not like you have boxing gyms on every corner nowadays either. So, all right. So once you finish up with high school, it sounds like you tried to continue to, chase that football dream. Talk about that a little bit. And then, I mean, how did you kind of start paying the bills? How did you make ends meet once you were done with high school?
When I finished high school, I was a troubled, angry youth. So my first fallback was to go to a Division I school, but being in trouble so much, my avenue started with jail first, being in trouble a lot. When I had my oldest son, who's 23 now, that changed that outlook. I ended up going back to college, Louisiana Monroe. I was there for 6 years. Went there originally to play football. Ended up figuring out education was a more stable outlet. So, I learned what I could. I played where I could and just continued to grow as a person. I graduated with my master's degree from there, went for Canada, went for the Arena Football League. I got hurt in college and it never healed properly. So football career was over. After that, it's just I had a passion for fitness, to be honest, and it was just more so because my strength and conditioning coaches really looked out for me in college. I ended up learning a lot from them, and I took that into therapy, where I was a rehab therapist for a little while, and then on the personal training.
Okay. Now, what did you get your undergraduate degree in, and then what was your master's in? Is that all like exercise science, kinesiology stuff, or?
Negative. So I have 4 college degrees now. None of them have anything to do with fitness.
Oh, okay.
I have a bachelor's and a master's in criminal justice.
Okay.
And then I have a associate's and a bachelor's in information technology.
Okay, cool. So I'm assuming you must have wanted to be a police officer, law enforcement at some point then, right? Or?
I wanted to be a lawyer.
Oh, okay.
But college doesn't pay bills. Like now they're going with the whole players can get paid and sponsored and things like that. We didn't have that then. At that point in time, I found out I had a second son when I got to college by my sophomore year. So I got 2 small kids, no revenue coming in, and I'm away from them. So college had to come to the end at some point. So it was just law school was another 6 years or so.
Yeah.
So I had to make money, and I just decided what was best was for me to go find a job.
Now, you said that your strength and conditioning coaches kind of took care of you and stuff like that when you were in college. At any point, did you kind of think about maybe taking a career path in terms of strength and conditioning, or did that never really cross your mind?
It was the original. Like I wanted to actually be a football coach. Like I said, it was always my first love. Strength and conditioning would have came second, but anybody who knows anything about coaching is a who you know profession. Like, yeah, I had all my coaches there. That's who I knew. I didn't have that those connections to go elsewhere. So when they were done, so was I. And people just, if they don't know who you are, they're not going to take a chance on you. They're going to hire their friends, their buddies, whatever.
Yeah. 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 I have a guy that we were really good friends, like in high school. He's a senior and when I was a freshman, then we went to college together, and he's the assistant strength and conditioning coach at an SEC school right now. But I know at one point, he was like doing internships. Like this is after he got his master's degree, which he got it at the school that you went to. But after he even got his master's degree, he was like sleeping on people's couches, like doing internships for free, just trying to climb the ranks within the strength and conditioning within the colleges. It's a grind, and like you said, it's about who you know and not what you know. So thankfully, he's got some connections now, and it's worked out. But definitely hear that now. You kind of started to move towards fitness, it sounds like, and personal training. Why don't you talk about you moving in that direction, and then I'm assuming that kind of correlates to you getting into bodybuilding at some point too. Why don't you unpack that story?
All right. So, like I said, after college, I had to get a job. My ex-wife at the time was a occupational therapist in a nursing home. So she had put me in touch with some people to get me on there because I had served as a graduate assistant for strength and conditioning. I had my PT certification, so I knew how the body works. I always took some liking to it because it was for me. Like I wanted to figure out how I can get bigger and better and stronger, just so I would never be the little guy again. So started working in rehab therapy in a nursing home. My mind changed more so toward just training people and helping people because I met an old lady there, Mona Events. Bless her soul, she's gone now, but she was wheelchair bound for 5-6 years, stuck in the four walls of that nursing home. Within me being there for about 6 months, I had her walking around on a single leg cane, and her daughter had written me a letter just thanking me for allowing her mom to enjoy the rest of her life outside of that nursing home. They were able to go to the mall together, go on walks. And it was just one of the things that she truly enjoyed having her mom back. And that's that from there. It's like, okay, I'm going to training. I know it's what I care about. I like to get like, I'm not a competitor trainer by any means, just because I know the negative the industry goes with it. I can if I want to. It's about more lifestyle and helping people than it is to just get a trophy, because people get into this sport for the wrong reasons. Everybody thinks, oh, I'm going to go pro in the first year and get all these sponsorships. And yeah, that's bullshit. It's not going to happen. Like, unless you're the top 5, the Olympia, the elite of the elite, your chance of getting rich in this business, slim to none. For me, like, it was in Texas when I started all this. You start seeing where I start to get to know people. Jonathan Irizarry.
Yeah.
That's my guy.
He's been on the podcast. Awesome guy. Love that guy.
That is my guy. Early on, him and a mutual friend of ours, Trinette, tried to get me to compete down there for the Ronnie Coleman. I'm from Mississippi, man. I don't like giving up my food. And that was my excuse for the longest. Like, nah, man, I don't want to diet. I don't want to. He stayed at it, and like they believed in me when I didn't when it come to this sport. Finally, when I took it on, he did come back to me. He was like, I told you so. But I didn't take it on until I moved up to Colorado, and actually had a couple more people in my ear. I had a few mutual friends. Phil was a good influence at that point in time. And Dylan Armburst was very supportive with it. Chris Havcost, guys who have been around the industry for quite a while. That's where I started. 2010. It's my very first show, Colorado State Championship.
Okay. All right. Before we dive completely into bodybuilding, I want to take a step back, because you said something that's interesting in terms of you helped this lady in this nursing home that had been wheelchair bound for 5 or 6 years. After a short amount of time, you were able to help her walk with the cane and stuff, and kind of basically gave her life back, at least her quality of life back. What was the process of you, Sylvester, helping her to walk again? Like, what type of movements? How did you kind of help her? Walk us through that process. And then is that kind of like your clientele now, like your training clientele? Is that really what you focus on, is more Gen Pop and just helping people that are the soccer moms and stuff like that?
So with Miss Events, first and foremost, is patience and true caring. I mean, people can read when you truly care about them and when they just a number. She didn't believe she could. I had to be very diligent about it. I had to take baby steps with it. And I mean, it didn't start right away. It was like, okay, let's stand up today. Let's take a couple steps and then sit down. Like, it was a very slow process at first. But as the weight started falling off, because I would definitely be very mindful about what she was eating, and kind of like, no, you can't have that. Give the why behind the what there. But she was willing to learn, because I was the one that, when I come in first thing in the morning, I'm going to see her. Hey, how you doing? You need anything? Like, I was just constantly there. It was almost like family. Like, if you got your mother or whatever in a nursing home, you want to go see them. You want to see how they doing, make their day. So it started that way. So she started doing a lot more seated mobility movements, strengthening her leg muscles again, watching the nutrition side of things. Her weight started to go down. And eventually we got to walking with assistance. And it slowly progressed in walking behind the wheelchair. Then I literally told her one day, hey, today you've been doing so good. I want to try this. I gave her the single leg cane. She put her hand on my shoulder, started walking. From there on, her independence started coming back. Her confidence started coming back. And you just couldn't keep her in the room anymore. She was happy to be out of there, but she lost, I want to say about 60 pounds in that time frame.
Cool.
Wow. You'd be amazed at what they feed them in the nursing homes. It's no different than what we do now, but there's nobody being mindful, like, hey, don't eat that, or watch the portion sizes. How was that for her?
So you kind of mentioned earlier, alluded to it at least, that you're not really into training, competitors. So you're more focused on Gen Pop, soccer moms, and things like that. Currently, is that kind of what you focus on for your training clientele over the years?
It is. I mean, I think I've trained 3 competitors in 20 some years that I've done this. Okay. When people come to me about it, yeah, I'll get you started. But if going to a show is what you want to do, I have some very simple questions. And if you can't answer them to, say, my liking, I won't be your trainer. If it's one of those things where you want to go the advanced PED route, I'm not going to be the guy. Like, there's a lot more that goes behind it than just telling somebody what to stick in their body. So, yeah, I would rather stick to Gen Pop, people who want to lose weight, truly change their life, because that has nothing to do with a trophy. That affects them. That affects their family. That affects their quality of life. Like, yeah, there can be more money behind that, but the quick money comes with competition. But so does the scrutiny. So does the risk. In this case right here, I can monitor what people are putting in their body and give them the why to the what. I can sit here and lay out the logic that, hey, this is not going to work because A, B, C, and D. Like, you're going to keep setting this example for your kids, and then they're going to be in this position. Like, it's the real conversations you have with people. When it comes to competitors, they all have this diluted image of getting on stage and winning first place and going to a national show their very first year and turning pro. Like, you see how few people do that? Like, you're not the next Phil Heath. Like, I can point out every glaring weakness you have. Like, that idea it's false. But because they see it on social media and are influenced by so much false information, that they think it's easier than what it is. This was a 12-year process for me to get my pro card. And even then, whether genetics or work ethic, it had a lot more to do with what was going on in my personal life. So I just stay away from it. Yeah. It could be toxic.
Yeah, I respect that, man, because most people that come on here, their goal is to get the pro card, grow their online coaching business, and live the good life. But like you said, that's not a reality for a lot of people. Okay, so I just want to ask you, because I own a gym and train Gen Pop people similar to yourself. So what's kind of been the most challenging thing for you, Sylvester, in all your years of training people in terms of kind of like getting them to comply? Like, what's that one thing or two things where it's like, man, like this seems to be a reoccurring issue or struggle for the majority of people, Gen Pop, that you train or coach?
People thinks it comes easy and quick. Like, that's the number one thing. Like, okay, you took 10, 15 years to put on 40, 50, 100 pounds. I can't get that off of you in 2 months. It took time to get it on. It's going to take time to get it off. But they come in, it's not a tangible thing. They believe that, oh, I paid $1,500 for this, I should see results immediately. Yeah. We got a lot of cleaning up to do. Like, it doesn't have it that way. I know this ain't Best Buy. I can't take you in here and say, hey, buy this body, and you walk out of the store with it. And then they don't get that. It takes work. Consistent work. Not just work, but consistent work. And for me, I try to explain to everybody, look, this is going to be a process. It's a team effort. Like, I'm going to be accountable to you just like you're accountable to me. My problem always lies is that don't have your goals mean more to me than they do to you.
Mm.
I'm sorry. I'm going to let you go. I just don't want to waste your time. Like, I've worked hard in this industry to have a name about myself to where, my integrity ain't in question. I'm always going to do what I can to do right by people.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to sit here and say, oh, it's my fault that you didn't get to your goals. Like, I'll go above and beyond, whether it's figuring out your nutrition, setting the plans, pushing the pace. Like, I'll do whatever I need to get you there, but I can't do the work. And though between the false ideas and the lack of effort behind it, it can be draining.
Yeah. What's the biggest or most rewarding thing for you working with the Gen Pop?
When they meet and exceed their goals. I mean, there's nothing like first time clients like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that. And then they do it.
Yeah.
When they do it, you just see that light go off and they're ready to take on the world at that point. Yeah. I've had clients lose 100 pounds. I've had women lift more than men and still be women. It's always that, oh, I don't want to look like you. Well, unless you got a hormone that I don't know about, you're safe. So it's always nice to see them reach their goal and come tell me the stories of, oh, you saved my life, or, I missed you because A, B, C, and D. And that's when they get what they never thought they could have is always the most rewarding.
Yeah, cool. All right. So you said you didn't start your really competitive bodybuilding until 2010 after you moved to Colorado. So why did you decide to go from Texas to Colorado? And then why didn't you talk about the first time you stepped on a bodybuilding stage?
So moving from Texas to Colorado was due to a very bad divorce. Okay. Real bad situation for me. Had I not gotten out, I probably wouldn't be here. Moved up here. My mom pushed really hard when my brother and I were kids to athletics, football. Well, at that point in time, me moving up here, football was gone. I didn't have anything. Yeah, Jonathan was pretty persistent about, give it a try. I hadn't let that dream go yet, but I wasn't sold on the nutrition side, so I didn't want to take that. And like I said, getting up here with Dylan and Phil and several other people, just give it a try. I'm like, okay, why not? What else do I got to lose here? Apparently, they saw more in me then than I did, because I think my first year before going into the state show, which is in July, I had a couple people literally make me go to every NPC show that was local. And the more I trained, the more I got used to posing and watching, and I'm like chomping at the bit. Like, I know I can beat him. I know I can beat him. Put me on stage. And all I would hear is, no, little brother, you're going to wait. Finally, state came. I was nervous, but I was ready. Ended up winning novice overall. I finished second in my open class that year. Controversial, nonetheless. But again, where we go back to the delusional side of things, you got to have a team beside you that is honest with you. And no fault to these guys. Confidence in me is one thing. I went from state show to USA's that year. Completely natural. Like, at that point in time, yeah, I wasn't big on the drug scene, none of that. USA's, talked to the head expediter that year. He called it. He was like, you're natural, aren't you? Yeah. He was like, you brought a knife to a gunfight. I finished 12th. It was a big class, and to finish top 15 in that class. I finished 12th in my very first show at USA's. Completely natural, standing next to guys that I know I outweighed, but they were just much bigger. So that in itself was, let me give you my lesson to competitors coming up. Like, it's delusional. Like, you're not going to step on that stage and just win like that. If you're not ready, you're not ready.
So, did you enjoy, like, when you first started competing then back in 2010, did you enjoy the process? Did you enjoy getting on stage? Did you enjoy giving up your Mississippi food? I mean, talk about that for a quick minute.
Man, nobody enjoys the process, especially when you first start. If they tell you that, they lie. You got to change eating habits. You're doing cardio that you ain't used to doing. Like, we all love to see the change in our body. But your first time, it's like culture shock. At this point in time, there was no trainer per se. It was friends helping out. Chris Shrink, who was a natural pro, did my diet and taught me how to start posing. And man, I think I was eating maybe 1,300 calories a day, doing 2 hours on the stairs. Like,
that's why you didn't enjoy it, man. Holy smokes.
Yeah, my first show I weighed in at 176.
Okay.
I came down from 230. So yeah, no, that wasn't a fun process.
No.
But I mean, getting on stage, winning, actually seeing, okay, I might be able to be good at this. That felt good.
Yeah.
And you know, whenever you finish second, that leaves a chip on your shoulder.
That's where the chip came from, huh? Getting second.
Yeah, I don't like losing. I'm a terrible loser. I can win. I can lose with grace because I know we all do the same thing. Like, it's a process, but I don't like losing.
Right. Okay, I want to ask you this then. You said that you moved up to Colorado because of a, unfortunate situation, a divorce. Did bodybuilding kind of come into your life and competing and stuff kind of like at the right time, so to speak, in terms of like, did it kind of give you an outlet and kind of give you a new direction for your life after what happened in Texas, or not necessarily?
It did. It filled a void more so. It wasn't the personal stuff. It filled that void for football. I still love football, but nothing like I used to. Like, getting into bodybuilding, like, I watched it growing up. I watched when it was on ESPN and stuff like that. So, like, yeah, I always watched Lee Priest and Sean Ray when they would battle it out up in New York and things like that. It is like, okay, I want to do that. So, yeah, I would do my push-ups and sit-ups at the house watching it, thinking that it's going to happen overnight. I'm going to be that sensation like them. But I didn't know the work that went behind it. When I got up here, like I said, football's gone. Bodybuilding did step in, and I didn't think it would. It was tough at first, giving up my eating habits and changing my lifestyle, but now I don't know another way.
Yeah, right. And that's what you ask your clients to do when they come and they want these, they have these weight loss goals. I mean, so you kind of did it yourself, and so then in turn you're being that example for your clients, and you can kind of say, hey, look, this is my process I had to go through. This is what I'm asking you to do. I mean, is that kind of fair to say?
Yeah, I get uncomfortable talking about myself because I always try to put the spotlight on them. But I also, especially being a father, I'm used to using my life as the example. I mean, there ain't many things that I can sit here and say I had screwed up with. I've done wrong, but you know what? If you can learn from my mistakes, you don't have to deal with the setbacks that I had to.
Right.
So yeah, it's not one of the things that I'm going to tell them to do an exercise or eat something that I hadn't already done.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Love that. Okay. So, why don't you walk us through, it took you 12 years to get your pro card. So I'm not going to ask you to, give us your entire like competition history, but why don't you talk about maybe some of the highlights, and was there a turning point in your competition history where you're like, okay, I'm moving in a direction that I like. I like my physique, the way that it's developing, and this pro card is maybe getting a little bit closer. Like, was there a big turning point in your competing?
Big turning point. There's always been that motivation. Like I said, I've had supportive people behind me. Dylan Armburst was very supportive for a good while. he had actually prepped me for junior nationals. I'm gonna say back in 2013. I finished second behind Adam Cohen.
Oh, okay.
Again, second place. Adam went on that year and turned pro. And that was a tough top three between us. But it was, like I said, I had Dylan. Phil, as Phil is, would give me shit. But it wasn't a like negative, oh, you suck shit. It was more so, how come you didn't finish it shit? So every year I've gotten better. And that's always my goal. I never do more than 2 shows a year. I just don't see the point. That doesn't give me time to grow, change. I keep putting the same package on stage, I'll probably get the same or worse result. But my setback had always been, truthfully, women. My house was never in order. There was always some drama that screwed me toward the tail end in a tough prep. I just stayed at it. I had to take time off about 5 years from 2016 to last year to fix me. And then came back last year. I went to the Colorado Cup, which I didn't know if I was ever going to compete again after 2016, because that was probably the lowest I had been in competing. I went to nationals, and there was nothing you could tell me about nationals that I wasn't going in there to win. Drama struck the night before. Missed several meals. Stress kicked in. My body didn't look the way it did at weigh-ins. Got my ass whipped. The lowest placing I've ever had. It was just a reality check, and something had to change. So I about walked away then. But I don't know why that fire really lit last year. It was more so, I think I set a goal when I came into this, is that, I want to win a state championship. I want to get my pro card. I got the state championship in 2015. Pro card was elusive, and I'm not one to just quit. So I'm like, okay, come back last year. I'm going to give this a try. Let's see where chips fall and go from there. Went to the Colorado Cup, won my class, ended up losing the overall to Ryan Troy, which I was pissed about, but cool guy, no problems with him. I mean, love him to death. Once you kind of get to talking to him, he's a really good person. Went on to North Americans, and it was a battle. Like, finished top 5 in the Open. What was I? Second in the 35 plus. Like, my placings were just so close. But this is all without saying, okay, I really didn't have a full year of prep going into that. It was one of those, hey, let's give this a try, see what happens. And I had Russ Allen, who took over. He led the way. And, we brought a better package. So coming back into it this year, it was one of those things like, hey, I stepped off stage after Pittsburgh last year. Let's put the sole focus a year out. We're coming back to Pittsburgh. And, I mean, finally, I can't, like, my reaction when my name was called, that was genuine. It's been hard earned. It's been a process. Nothing came easy about it. I had the false expectations right along with everybody else. But I earned it. And I had Russ and Shane Hughley in my corner the entire time. And as much doubt and question it can come in your head, it was just nothing but fuel that I'm going to execute. And no matter how it all fell, I was going to give everything I had going into the show. So, I mean, I'm thankful for those two, because even when I was down on myself, they did not let me falter. And we stuck to the plan and came out with what we wanted.
So you got your IFBB Pro card at this year's North Americans, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you got that through winning the Masters 40 plus?
I got the 35 and the 40.
Perfect. So you got 2 pro cards.
Yeah. You don't need
After
for
all
one.
those years, you're going to take both of them, right?
Hey, I ain't gonna complain.
Yeah, yeah, I love it, man. It's great. Okay, so a couple things I want to touch on from what you just shared. You said that you took some time to fix yourself. Will you give us a little bit more details? What did that look like for you personally?
So I always used, whether it was females or bodybuilding or something, to fill the void, not addressing the damage that was done from my first marriage and everything like that. Like, I've done things I ain't proud of, especially relationship wise. I've hurt people. I've just been very selfish. And for me, it was to go back and try to mend those relationships, try to look within and truly own and be accountable to what I did. Like, it wasn't everybody else's fault. Like, I can't blame my team for looking at me how they did, because honestly, it's on me. I made choices, just like we all do. It's just hard for some people to own them. I had to. So taking that time away, not having the drama and the bullshit anymore, and just truly being able to focus, I cleaned it up. I feel like I've grown as a man, as a husband, a father, just as a person. Things had to change with life outside of bodybuilding. And that's one of the things. I have a good friend, you know him, Mr. Charles Dixon.
Yeah.
He was probably the most critical of me, probably back in 2016. And, that criticism at the time didn't sit right. But him and I have talked, and he's been on the team, and it's just one of the things that he was telling me what I didn't want to hear. My house wasn't in order. Regardless of how good I showed up at a show, I didn't deserve to win it. Like, I didn't have the mindset, I didn't have the drive, I didn't have the focus to beat the guys who did the work and had it all in order. Like, you get what you deserve. And in that particular time, it wasn't my time. I mean, like I said, I can appreciate him for being honest with me. And that's something I can never express how thankful I am for. Because, yeah, I didn't want to hear it. I was pissed when he said it. But looking back on it now and putting it all in perspective, he was right. Like, you can sit here and keep doing all this dumb shit, but bro, you're not ever gonna be 100% on stage. Like, how I'm gonna be on stage thinking I'm gonna beat these top guys nationally, and I'm over here thinking about this chick or that chick, or what I'm doing here. Like, I was never just focused. So all that was gone. Like, didn't have it last year, and this year it was everything I needed to do. This year I did.
Yeah.
No questions asked. So yeah, that's
cool.
That's the way it had to be done. It was all internal.
Love that, man. I appreciate you touching on that. I want you to go a little bit more in depth. You've mentioned this or brought this up a few times, and you said you even fell into this trap of false expectations. So once again, I just want you to, just explain a little bit about how did you fall into that trap? And then you've kind of already talked about how a lot of bodybuilders kind of fall into this false expectations trap. They think they're going to get their pro card after 2 shows or whatever. Just talk about how you fell into that, and maybe just relate that or share your perspective in terms of, how some people watching or listening to this can avoid that.
I mean, for me, like I said, I had supportive people behind me, but I believe my own hype. That's the easiest way to fall into that trap. Is you see it happening and you see the one-offs. Like I said, everybody sees Phil Heath. This was 7-time Mr. O. Phil stepped in and just the prodigy. He's the one-off. He's the exception to the rule. So everybody thinks they can be that. Great. You look good taking your clothes off in a gym mirror by yourself. You ain't standing next to somebody who's put 5, 10, 15 years of work behind this. like muscle maturity, density, just an absolute beast, and works just as hard, if not harder, than you do. That's where you have to have the team that's honest with you, but somebody who's going to be blatantly honest, not just tell you what you think you need to hear. That's what I didn't have at the time. It's like everybody told me things that would lift me up and pump my head up, like, yeah, I can do this. Because I went into state. I ain't gonna lie. I knew I could beat anybody there. That's just always been my mentality, is I can beat everybody here. It's not always the case. But I believed it. And when it didn't happen, I was pissed. And it did make me work harder, but it didn't change that mindset. It's like, oh, this year's going to be the year. Same result. Why didn't I get it? Work harder, do more. With this sport, you got to make a deal with the devil to be the best. People don't get that. Like I said, my first year was natural. Second year, took a few things. Third year, all bets was off. And it's just the fact of, to hell with this losing thing. You know, I'm better than this. I'm better than anything they put on stage, because you see what MD and everybody's putting on the screen in the pictures. Like, yeah, I can beat them. I can beat them. I can beat them. But when you're standing next to them, you ain't beating them. Like, these guys are dry. These guys are big, grainy. I remember I was standing backstage with during tanning with a couple guys, and I'm backstage like, shit, these guys are huge. And they're looking at me like I'm stupid because my dumb ass said it out loud. I'm standing next to lightweights and welterweights. I'm a damn light heavy. It's just like the mind plays that trick. But it was so hard not to believe my own hype. So if anything, like, exercise humility. Like, I see guys, and Sam Canado catches hell for so many things. I'm not going to say I know what's true and what ain't, so I'm not going to touch on that. But I watched Sam when he came into this game. Some things hadn't changed. As a person, I'm good with Sam. I got no problems with him personally. But Sam lets his mouth overload his ass too much. Like, sometimes just shut up, be humble, take your wins, and be the best you can. You duck all the heat that way. But he puts himself out there, and I wish he wouldn't. And him and I have had this conversation when he competed locally, because I judged here. And it's just like, at some point, man, learn it. I applaud him. I don't know, saw a post that I put up after North Americans. This is when everybody was giving him all kind of shit about so many things. I don't have that issue with Sam. As a competitor, hey, he showed up. Bravo, you did the work. You don't have to talk. Like, okay, you're at the top of the food chain right now. You can't say this shit in the 212s. You can't say this shit in the open. These guys have been there. They are established. You starting all over. You keep bringing that scrutiny, like, they're going to be out for your ass, not just on the stage. So, win and lose with humility and with integrity. And I hope he hears this. It's like, it ain't nothing personal. I got the utmost confidence in my man. Like, dude, just shut up and do the work. Don't let the outside shit get you. Because when we start believing our own hype, we fall on our face hard.
Excellent, man. Well said. I appreciate that. So you said Shane Hughley's kind of had a big impact in your life in terms of helping you get your pro card and things like that. Why don't you touch on him, because he's an elite coach and seems like a great guy.
Shane is a monster, man. I mean, I've had to do things I never done. He had a plan. I ain't gonna bullshit you. I was questioning every bit of the way what's going on with his plan. but I trusted in him. The man knows his shit. Whether it's little diet tweaks here or cardio, he just knows his shit. Like I can't, and I've tried to, but the appreciation for Shane, his faith and belief in me is unparalleled. This, like I said, I had Russ last year, and Russ was still there this year. Shane took over for Russ, and it was kind of a partnership in that one. But they made sure I brought the best me to stage. I don't think I've ever been that damn dry. Like I did not sweat at all backstage or on stage, but it was just the fact of Shane was very diligent about making sure there was no stone unturned. So when you're sitting here, he's got a pro card at every show this year. I didn't want to let him down because my man, he gave everything he had as far as getting me to it. Supportive there. I could see why the competitors have been so high on him. And it's something I should have done years ago, but I wasn't in the right place.
Cool. All right. We're going to start wrapping it up. I want to ask you, I did read a little bit of a post of yours after you got your pro card, and you were just very candid in terms of just kind of keeping it real and saying, hey, it's just time to go put in the work, and we'll see what happens in terms of, you know, stepping on a pro stage. So why don't you just, if you want to kind of share that post a little bit, like what your mindset was when you posted it after you got your pro card, and then, you know, any thoughts of stepping on a IFBB Pro stage anytime soon, or is that just you're just going to kind of let things unfold as they unfold?
So plans are already in place, but plans are written in pencil. That post was constantly, when you step on stage, what's the next show? Like, you could ask me this, but I just got off stage. I can be honest. Yeah, I'm not ready to stand next to the elite 212s. I'm not an open guy. I never will be. But if I'm going to get on stage, which, yes, my goal is to win a pro show, be able to step on the Olympia one time. Like, I don't need I could say I don't need to win it. Yeah. But it's more than what most people can do. So yeah, there's goals. That's not going to come overnight. I'm not going to make that same mistake. So I've already talked to Shane. Shane says I'm ready. I'm ready. Until then, follow the plan, do the work. I was talking to Luis Santa after North Americans because Luis was up here for a while, known him for years, and him and Rich were like, you know, come out to Baltimore or do the Puerto Rico Pro, which I would love to get on stage with Luis. I looked up to him when he was here. Like, he was one of the driving factors if I'm gonna be better because I wanted to beat Luis. But yeah, if I can't have my name in a conversation, I'm not gonna put myself out there. And that's what I tell competitors now is that, great, you can do all this work, but if you can't put the best package forth and be up there ready to win, why do it? It's expensive. It's hard. For women especially, it's humiliating. Like, you stand next to 12 females on stage and you finish 12th. That's going to do something to you internally. So I don't want to rush anything. I just hope my body responds the way it needs to. And we'll go from there. Like, if it's 2023, it'll be 2023. It may be 2024. I don't know. But I'm not in a rush to get there. The stage will be there.
What's kind of your training philosophy or training style in terms of yourself personally when you're getting after it?
I've been sticking with a lot of John Meadows stuff. I mean, John is a mastermind when it comes to training protocols. Some of this shit, I mean, I've worked out for years and I still get sore. Yeah. Hell, I look at what's coming up in the plan like, oh, I don't know about split squats of death. You can keep them. I'm done with this. But I mean, the man knew what he was talking about. I mean, Sean Clarita can attest to that. He still does it.
What's kind of been your current training split, or how do you kind of split things up usually?
Right now I'm about 6 days a week. Leg days twice, back days twice. Um, my back has come up over the years, still not where I want it to be. Self-conscious about my legs. Like I pick apart myself. So I take those are my two biggest area needs. So kill them. Hopefully they grow and keep trying to get them better because, like I said, if I can't be in a conversation, there's no point in getting up there.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. What's something that you kind of know now in terms of bodybuilding specifically that you wish you would have known a lot sooner in this bodybuilding experience that you've had up to this point, Sylvester?
Protect your peace.
Hmm.
That's something we all get into the scene. You get the spotlight on you. There's so much hype. There's excitement. Like you're the fresh new thing. Females out of woodworks. Like it's just it becomes a cesspool of drama. It's temporary.
Hmm.
Step back. Like if you don't lose who you are in this game because it's easy to do it.
Hmm.
So many people have fallen short of it. You got people sleeping with people they shouldn't be sleeping with, and it's just all bad.
Hmm.
And you end up damaging relationships and even losing yourself to a point you may not be able to come back from it.
Hmm.
So yeah, protect your peace.
Hmm. What's the bodybuilding scene like out there in the Denver area where you're currently located?
It's popular. It's not what I thought it would be, growing up watching Pump and Iron and things like that. Um, very diverse with the new categories. People are kind of swaying every which way. Not as supportive as you would think it would be. Like we don't have the Bev Francis. Like you got arm bursts, but it's not pros lifting with pros. It's still the kind of dog eat dog mentality a little bit. You have a couple good people. Like I know people I can go to, and it is, but you have some people who are pros or want to be pros that are so full of themselves that it's really just stay to yourself because it's just gonna bring shit you don't want to your corner.
Yeah. Um, all right, man. We'll wrap it up kind of right there. I want to ask you, since you spend a lot of time in the gym, what are a couple of your biggest gym pet peeves? And that can be in terms of like, when you're training or when you're training your clients. Give me a little bit of both, however you want to take it.
My biggest pet peeve, I'm pretty sure there's millions of people who do this. Re-rack your shit. Not your maid, not your housekeeper. Just put your stuff up, man. It's not hard. That's the one thing that just really gets under my skin is you use something, you leave it there.
Okay. Um, what's I know you're training out of Powerhouse there in Aurora. Outside of Armbrust, are there any other gyms that are kind of go-tos if people are in the Denver area, or not really?
It's kind of spread out. Armbrust is a little outside of Denver. So it's a little further away. Powerhouse is in the area. You have some smaller gyms, lesser known. You've got Prodigy up north in Fort Collins. That's ran by Chris Havcost, like quality gyms. But as far as just true bodybuilding type gyms, those are it. I mean, you have 24 Vasa and Planet Fitness if you want to go that route, but it's just not the same when it comes to this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I said before we turned on the mic, I lived in Denver right before COVID hit. I was personal training at an Anytime Fitness out in that area, and then before that I lived in Colorado Springs, and like you said, there's just not. There's this gym called Flex Gym in Colorado Springs. It's like old school, but it's like so old school you don't even really want to lift there because it's kind of like just grungy and nasty, and the equipment hasn't been well kept. And outside of that, man, there really isn't that many bodybuilding gyms out in that Colorado Springs, Denver area, is there?
No, Dylan actually cornered the market with that one.
Yeah,
Arm burst, it's the mile high mecca.
yeah.
From what I've been to, Chris up in Fort Collins has done a phenomenal job, and he's still growing. So Prodigy's a great place up there. But aside that, like, there's really not that huge focus on something that supports the industry like that. Like Powerhouse, it's a couple of us there, but gyms are really tailored for gym pop. That's how they make money. I mean, Dylan's kind of gone that way, but he's got such a name behind him. He draws the crowds no matter what. He's done a great job out there. Like, I went out there when I first moved up here. That gym was nowhere near as big as what it is now. He's taken over the entire almost center. He's got that whole section, and it's grown, and he's constantly getting equipment. So between Armburst and Prodigy, those are the two that I could say up here that really set the tone.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to ask you this before I let you go, man. Cause I love business talk, and we talked about it a little bit, but, do you have any plans? Like, what do you have, you have like your ideal physique in mind for yourself, or what you want to accomplish as a bodybuilder? Do you have some goals or a vision for yourself in terms of business, training, owning your own gym someday? Like, business wise, what are you pursuing, personally?
So one of the goals with my pro card was, let's get the online thing launched. For me, it's not so much of getting rich, but it is to be able to touch a larger population. Like I said, I like helping people. So that's first and foremost. Overall, yeah, I want to get my own gym going. I've had some talks with Dylan. I've had some talks with Chris. These guys already do it on how that looks. And both have agreed to mentor me, kind of give me the do's and don'ts and walk me through it. It's going to be a process.
Yeah. It's going to take some money, right?
That was the first thing Dylan said. You need a money guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody, I say this a lot, but on the podcast, but it's so true. Like, people like to drink. So they're like, I'm going to open up a bar. I like to lift weights. I'm going to open up a gym. I like to, fix cars. So I'm going to open up an auto mechanic, body shop. And it's like, that's great. That might be a starting point, but man, there's the whole business side that you really don't know until you actually just step into it. Cause it's, there's a lot to it, but, we'll wrap it up right there. Sylvester, I'm going to kind of give you the opportunity to, share, any final thoughts, any final words with us. Why don't you give us your Instagram, any shout outs? Then I'll do a quick outro, and then that'll be it. So why don't you share anything in closing, and then I'll wrap it up.
I mean, honestly, I appreciate you having me today. If anybody does watch this, if you want to compete or if you are competing, just remember to be who you are and be humble. You don't have to be a dick in this sport. I mean, win or lose, we all go through the same work. We suffer together. At the end of the day, we step on stage, it ain't in our hands anymore. So just enjoy the journey, enjoy getting better, and love what you do. Like, your time will come, whatever that may look like. I appreciate Dylan Armburst, Chris Havcall, Shane Hewley, Russ Allen, Charles Dixon, Rose Berner. I didn't mention her. Rose is at Powerhouse with me. Rose she's that mom figure. IFBB Pro, but very supportive, very honest. Love her to death. But yeah, it's just, you thank the people in your corner.
Cool.
They're not guaranteed. So it's hard to find good people, but you thank the ones that are in your corner. It's got your best interest at heart. For me, like I said, you can find me. I'm on Instagram at scain2280. I do online training. I do in-person training. I don't mind answering questions. I look mean most of the time, but I'm not. I'm a big teddy bear. Don't worry about it.
Cool. All right. Well, Sylvester, thanks so much, man, for sharing a little bit of your life and bodybuilding stories with us, man. Really appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you, Q.
Yeah, you're welcome. All of you who are tuning into another episode of Behind the Muscle podcast, I just want to say thank you so very much. Quickly here, as we wrap up this great chat today with Sylvester, if you have not done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube in regards to BTM. That's really important because I release all these episodes first on YouTube, and then I'll distribute them to iTunes, Castbox, Podbean, and some of the other major podcast platforms. And then also take this episode with Sylvester. Make sure you share it on your Instagram stories. Tag Sylvester, tag Behind the Muscle, so that we know that you listened specifically to this episode and found great value in it, in which I know you did. And then finally, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.